please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As you were.
Don't want you to lose it.
Call the meeting to order. We have a bunch of minutes to approve. Need a motion to approve the minutes from the executive session held on February 11th, 2025.
So moved?
Motion by trustee Kane. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by deputy mayor Hay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Motion to approve the minutes from the regular meeting held on February 11th, 2025. Do I have a motion?
Move it.
Motion by deputy mayor Hay.
Second.
Seconded by trustee Plum. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Motion to approve the minutes of the budget work session held on February 13th, 2025. Do I have a motion?
Move it.
Motion by deputy mayor Hay, a second.
Second.
Seconded by trustee Corish. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Motion to approve the minutes from the special meeting held on February 14th, 2025. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by trustee Corish, second.
Second.
Seconded by trustee Plum. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Motion to approve the minutes from the special meeting held on February 14th, 2025. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Motion by deputy mayor Hay, a second.
Second.
Seconded by trustee Plum. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Motion to approve the minutes from the executive session held on February 18th, 2025. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by trustee Corish. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by trustee Kane. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. The motion to approve the minutes from grievance day held on February 18th, 2025. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by trustee Corish, a second.
Second.
Seconded by trustee Kane. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Motion to approve the minutes from the executive session held on March 6th, 2025. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Motion by deputy mayor Hay, second.
Second.
Seconded by trustee Corish. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Motion to approve the minutes from the budget work session held on March 6th, 2025. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Motion by deputy mayor Hay, second.
Second.
Seconded by trustee Plum. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. That brings us now to our department committee reports. We have the treasurer on Zoom. Charles, would you like to take it?
I will. Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, everyone. I will report we've got results through January. Our revenue is about $15 million, 95% of our fiscal year budget. And as I've reported before, the building department, justice court, and now the harbor and docks have all exceeded their annual fiscal budget. So from a revenue standpoint, so that's obviously a good thing. And also, we collected half of the amount that were due from the school district for the resource officer that we've placed there. So, we fully expect to get the other half, but half of that amount, which is $32,500, has been received, and we're working on the rest. In terms of expenditures, so through January, 11.5 million. Spending is in line with our budget expectations. And we've funded all of our major expenditures for retirement, LoSAP, insurance or annual insurance renewal, as well as our reserves. So we're in good shape, and I fully expect to be within approved budget amounts for expenditures. I've got one other topic I'd like to discuss on the agenda tonight. There's a resolution for a new accounting system, and we're asking the mayor to authorize the agreement. It's with a company called Edmunds GovTech, and the solution is a modern cloud-based user-friendly solution. As you probably know, our current software, accounting and finance software, is over 20 years old. It's archaic and it's very inefficient. The new software, in addition to being easy to use, will allow us to store related documents online. So as you need something or we need something, we could get images through the system, print them out, or email to somebody directly without leaving your desk. As you know, today, we've got file cabinets, we've got storage boxes in the vault, we've got storage boxes on the floor, very inefficient. This will be a huge improvement in terms of efficiency. As well as, access points, more people, department heads and others can access the information, and also provide better reporting and analysis tools for us. So the cost is in total about $30,000 in the first year. That includes, I want to say about $18,000 for the one-time setup and data conversion, and then about $11,000 a year thereafter. So you'll see that in the resolution, and I strongly recommend that we vote in favor of that.
Okay, is that it, Charles?
That is it.
Any questions for the treasurer?
I have a question just about the system, but I can wait until we get to that resolution.
Okay,
Okay.
anybody else?
No.
Motion to accept the treasurer's report?
I'll move it.
Second,
Second.
motion by Deputy Mayor Hay, seconded by Trustee Corus. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. That brings us now to our department reports, and I'll begin with the police department, fire department, and the ambulance corps. In the month of February 2025, the Sag Harbor Police Department had 564 calls for service. We had 6 aggravated unlicensed operation. We had 11 suspended registrations. We had 2 DWIs. There was 1 petty larceny. We had 1 peddling without a license. We had 1 village code violation, 1 domestic harassment call, and there were 7 motor vehicle accidents. Reports from our chief, Chief Drake. And it says we had 116 uniform traffic tickets were issued also. That brings us to the fire department. In the month of February 2025, the members of the fire department volunteered for 758 man-hours. During the month, the officers and members of the department responded to 23 calls for service. These calls included 2 calls to neighboring districts for structure fires. We had 5 gas leaks, and there were numerous false alarms. With the cold weather, the members of the department have been continuing their training by taking advantage of the indoor training facility in East Hampton. We also have been working with our juniors program. They were able to train at the training facility where we had 13 future firefighters trained on a ladder drill. We also sent, with these recent brush fires, our brush truck was called into service, and with the crew, we went up to West Hampton and was able to assist in fighting the brush fires. We did wind up having some damage done to the brush truck, which we'll need to have repaired. So that's the fire department report. That brings us to the Sag Harbor Volunteer Ambulance Corps. Before I get to the ambulance, just one note. Myself and Trustee Kane were at a workshop in East Hampton this morning, and the subject of the wildfires had come up, and I get a lot of questions and calls about all the dead brush and the dead trees from the Asian beetle that are laying all over the ground. And this could be, people are concerned it's possible fuel for a brush fire if we get a dry season. There were a couple of experts there, from the forestry and from the Pine Barrens, and they say that it's exactly the opposite effect, that the fell brush and the dead trees actually act as somewhat of a fire stop. They're less likely to fuel the fire. It's what they call a low fuel, I think he said, or it's more likely to stop the fire than to fuel it.
And to spread.
Because it's laying on the ground and,
Damp and-
right, and the fire, fire burns the way, just the chemistry of it, what we were told is that it's more likely to stop the fire.
And it will smolder and stay
It will
as opposed
smolder.
to spread.
Right.
As opposed to being dry grass.
So it's exactly the opposite of what most people have been concerned about.
Yep.
So I just figured I would mention that to the public. Chris Gangemi was there from the Star, so he was typing away on his laptop, as I hope Mr. Coates is doing. Okay.
So
So
really
get the
interesting.
word out there to the public. All right, that brings us to the Volunteer Ambulance Corps. For the month of February 2025, we had 44 emergency calls, 4 work nights, 2 meetings, 3 training sessions, and 1 work detail. We also hosted a blood drive on February 7th, collecting 100 pints of blood. And we'd like to thank the community and everybody who came out and donated their blood. It's a much needed resource. That finishes my reports and brings us to trustee Deputy Mayor Hay for the Justice Court. Yes.
I have one question. You mentioned there were 5 gas leaks. And
Yeah.
that's unusual. I don't remember a gas leak. Is 5 an unusual number of gas leaks in the village?
I think I mean, it's interesting how these calls run in series. It's almost like
But these regular homes or houses under
they're
construction?
regular homes, as far as I know, they're regular residents that sometimes people run out of gas and you get the smell, the
Right.
low pressure.
Just,
I don't know all the natures of the call, but
LP gas?
could be LP. Most of the village has natural gas.
yeah.
Yeah.
Anyhow, I just.
And we did, by the way, bringing that up, the union that works for National Grid, the laborers union and the mechanics union, is supposedly going to strike or near going on strike. So I've been watching the news and following that.
Right. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
That's all right.
It would be good to know, for example, those leaks were all in the same street, same neighborhood. If it's,
I don't believe so. They were random calls.
Super cold weather can make the gas expand and the vents itself.
and some of the homes just might be empty and it's,
Yeah,
they could have run out of gas and things like that too.
pilot light's going up.
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Deputy Mayor?
Sure. I'll start with the Justice Court report. Consistent with the police report for the month of February, 136 new cases were started, 117 vehicle traffic law, 2 penal laws, 17 village ordinances. Pretty consistent with prior years for the month of February. January and February have both been consistent with prior months as well. I'll move on to Parks and Open Spaces reports, and it's, sorry, this one's going to be a little bit longer. My apologies, but there's some interesting things we want to discuss publicly that are occurring. One is good news. We received all the surveys from H2M about the water access points. And the granite hitching posts to mark the water access points have been ordered. They're being ordered by not-for-profit, the Dog Pass Bandits. So they started that process. We'll report at a future meeting, next steps around those, because there are a couple of properties that there may be some encroachment we want to discuss. We'll want to talk to the neighbors about. And in addition, there's some additional water access points in different points in the village as we go through this process. Other places we'll want to survey and mark as well, potentially as water access points as well. Spend a little bit more time talking about the County Road 79 project. And I apologize, but I'm going to take a little bit of time to give some background and then talk about where we are in this process now. As most of you know, the project spans from the intersection of Scuttle Hole Road on County 79 all the way to the intersection of Main Street and Germain Avenue and Brick Hill Road in Sag Harbor. The county sponsoring the project, the town of Southampton, the village of Sag Harbor are also listed in the design documents as sponsors of the project, but the county is funding the project entirely, and their preliminary estimate was about $14 million. There are many aspects of the project that we find commendable. The POSAC committee has been working and reviewing the project and talking to the county along the way. It's going to create sidewalks on both sides of County Road 79 for safer pedestrian access, really all the way from Bridgehampton to Sag Harbor. It's also going to create bike paths along County Road 79 on both sides. And it's also going to improve the drainage on County Road 79 as well, and on the shoulders. There are also some concerns that we've raised in the past with the project that we've seen. With the preliminary design, really. One is the intersection of County Road 79, Germain Avenue, Main Street, and Brick Hill Road. Specifically, that intersection calls for, as they call them, refuge islands, which are raised islands to allow pedestrians to cross with the traffic lights through what is a pretty wide intersection that pedestrians currently in the village typically don't use, because it's a typical intersection to navigate by foot, really. The way that they've designed those refuge islands, though, doesn't permit, it blocks the entrance of the park for vehicular traffic. The only way you can get in under their current design is to make a right-hand turn heading north on County Road 79. You no longer would be able to make a left-hand turn in from Germain Avenue. You wouldn't be able to enter from Main Street or Brick Hill Road either. The only way in and out of the park, the way they've designed it, would be if you're coming in from outside the village of Sag Harbor into the village. So we've raised that concern with them. We've had numerous conversations with them beginning this past fall. And we've brought in a traffic consultant, the village has, to advise us on the process and to help us with our discussions with the county. And they've been very good conversations. The 4 issues generally we've raised with the county was we'd like improved expanded bike paths. Once you hit the village, we talked to them about actually shifting the road to allow for, an expanded, separate bike paths. We've talked to them about creating a new entrance for the park on County Road 79, since their design blocks the existing entrance. And we asked them to consider alternatives to their intersection, including potentially a roundabout to look at. They said no to most of those recommendations. Some right out of the gate, but some they entertained discussions on the bike paths. And we've had ongoing discussions with them as a large group through the end of the end of last year. They suggested, based on some of the suggestions we've made, and they've agreed to consider some, that their engineer and our engineer sit down and talk and really work through some of the engineering hurdles of the suggestions we had for them.
Can I ask a quick question there? Do they understand the situation where the village park cannot be accessed from the village as a major stumbling block in this design?
Yes. And what they said to us, which was almost comical, was, well, people are entering and exiting illegally from there now. I was like, well, that's not really true.
That's why the answer is yes and no.
Yes. Yes. And so that's part of the wrinkles that I want to talk about.
Right.
Some of the things that are driving their responses to it, which puzzled us for several months. And it was really the meetings that took place between our engineer and their engineer that helped shed some light on why their answers are so puzzling to us.
Right. So essentially, you'd have to leave the village, do a U-turn, and come back in.
To get into the park.
Can I, not to interrupt?
Sorry, no.
Is there going to be a public comment section? Are they going to be open to public comments since they're doing this in our village from residents in the village?
They had one last June, and then they had a second one, I want to say in September. And people from the village did go and listen. And people from the park went and listened because obviously it's impacting the park.
When you say listen, I mean, are they open to letting the public speak or?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, but it's one thing to be open to have the public speak and then to actually be able to change the
Then take
design.
You
action.
need to listen.
Yeah, well, it's that, even if they listen, here's some of the information we're getting between, again, the engineering talks that we had were very informative to us, I think. Things that they probably didn't want to say to us completely. In the big group meetings, we had a POSAC committee, MASH Park board members talking to them. Ann Welker organized these meetings. They were really good for us to air our suggestions out, but not good for making progress on the county side. So what we found, though, is that and our engineers reading a little bit between the lines, but they have an authorized scope of their project. And there are certain things that have influenced the scope design of their project. And while I think they presented this as, preliminary design, they're not willing to go much beyond that preliminary design. And let me say it this way. The employees of the Department of Public Works, the traffic, directors, and I don't know if they have the authority to go beyond the scope of their project that's approved.
So this project is already approved yet before they took input from village. This is what I'm trying to get a handle on.
The scope, I would say.
I think there's some accuracy there. And what drove the scope of their project was to improve pedestrian access, produce safety, to improve stormwater. But for example, what we found, and it's good we hired our consultant, because our consultant helped us with, looking at a roundabout, looking at traffic flows, looking at some of the, what are things that we can do to improve flow as well as to improve safety for pedestrians, for bicycles, and stormwater. All the things that they saw as goals we agreed with. We just
Right,
were giving
yeah.
us suggestions that maybe we can do it a little better since we know our side of the
It
village.
would seem that, yeah, exactly. You know, the park entrance, I mean, we have school buses go in there.
Yeah.
So a school bus would theoretically have to go through that intersection, find a place to do a
And it would be
U-turn,
a tight right-hand turn for the school bus into that
and
intersection,
then you have to loop back around.
the way they designed it, and get back out.
It seems
Why
like,
don't you just leave it the way it is?
Well, that's one
Oh.
potential option
That's Tom.
that we can consider, and we've raised that as, why don't we just leave it the way? Well, here's two things have come up now in the last couple of months that will influence whether we can, whether we want to, how we want to negotiate this as a village. One is that as part of the research that our traffic consultant did for the intersection, a feasibility study on a traffic circle, we were asking them for their traffic information. Well, the information that they based their design of this whole project on was 2016 traffic information.
oh, wow.
Um,
Should the village adopt a policy on this? Do we need to present them with our collective opinion?
Well,
as far
let me
as
give
the
you some
resolution?
recommendations as we get through this, because there's
Okay,
one
sorry.
other issue that's still messy that we have to figure out. Early on in the discussions, back in the fall, we were told, when we said, listen, we don't agree with these raised islands, it's blocking the park entrance, you're forcing us to create a new park entrance. The non-for-profit park would have to build a new road in. They weren't going to help with the building of the road. They would just do the cutouts for it. We said, this is problematic. And they said, listen, our responsibility ends at the southern part of the intersection of Brick Hill Road, Germain Avenue, and Main Street. We can just, if you guys are going to push on this, we won't do anything. We're like, okay, so we'll be a little bit, more sensitive about how we discuss this with them. But so that was in the fall. What we've recently found out through our traffic engineer is it's not
Really in the
exactly
last week.
clear.
Yeah.
Yeah,
2
yeah,
weeks.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
It's not clear that their jurisdiction ends at the southern part of the intersection. It might end at the northern part of the intersection. They might actually own the intersection, in which case they have a responsibility to do it now. Our consulting is telling us that their project is probably much further along and much further set than we believed when they made their initial presentations last June and September. And for us to do something very different with the industry, let's assume that they own it.
Yeah.
And we don't know that. They're researching it now. In order to get them to do something other than they originally planned, it might require a phase 2 of the project, not within this project.
And the idea of a second entrance that had been discussed in the park, is that off the table now?
It's not off the table. They're still willing to do the cutouts for that. The
Right.
park is going to look to fundraise and to apply for grants. The county said that they have a $250,000 grant that the park can use to help for stormwater remediation and the road.
Because if that was the vehicle entrance, that would sort of
It would help,
solve some of.
but we still have a big problem to figure out is who owns the intersection.
Okay, yeah.
And that determines some decision-making we'd want to make as a board.
Yeah.
And some of our discussions with the county as well.
So how do we determine who owns it? Is that something we're?
They're researching it, the county's researching it. And what I've found just in the last couple of weeks talking to our engineers, because that same firm has a similar problem going on between New York State and East Hampton town. They're trying to figure out who owns this part of the street that the town wants to do something with.
Intersection on Twell Harbor and
Not there, it's a different part of the town. And so but it's the records around property adjacent to roads are much clearer, like the water access points we just talked about, than the roads themselves. And it seems like sometimes, states, counties have ceded road rights back and forth to each
Who's
other.
been
Villages.
paving it?
All good questions. I don't know if we know the answers off the top of our head, and I'm not sure that'd be determinative either.
Someone could have done it thinking that what they thought was true, and they took that responsibility when now that may have been inaccurate.
I could tell you this much, okay? If the county comes in here and screws this thing up, nobody's gonna blame the county. They're gonna blame this village. So something better be done before they start to put a shovel in the ground to make sure that this
They
isn't,
don't plan to take that to bid till 2026.
all right.
So right now we've
So
got,
even though
Yeah,
it
we've got
seems like
national-
they say it's baked,
Yeah.
there is still time.
there is, but
So
but-
that's the part that's tricky.
yes, but it doesn't sound like if there's a significant deviation from what they've proposed on the intersection, and if they own it, then it sounds like our recourse will be to seek that, a phase 2 of the project, from asking to stop at the southern point of the intersection, and to consider a phase two. And that's probably not with those county employees we're talking to. It's probably talking to Ann Welker and the county officials.
Right, to take
about
it, elevate the conversation.
Yes.
I'll have a talk with Ann Welker.
So those wrinkles around, and by the way, even with one of the things the post-act committee is still doing, with some of those raised islands, we're asking them, make the island in front of the park entrance smaller. So we can still, and then we've asked our traffic consultant, consider a left-hand turn lane from Germain Avenue. Would that be feasible? So we could still have access from Germain and Brick Hill Road to the park.
Right.
Even with their design. So all of those things are still on the table. This work we've been doing for the last, 6-8 months on this. It's kind of like peeling the onion. Each time you think you're getting somewhere, we find out new information. It's like, oh, well, that changes things a little bit, and that changes things a little bit, and that changes, what we ask for and what we can or can't ask for. And the most recent information, we still don't have an answer to. Who owns the intersection?
So if you're coming south on Main Street, and you want to go to the park, you just sort of dodge your way through there, right?
And that will be taken away completely under the counties, and that's not such a bad thing probably, because that's a tricky maneuver.
It's the diagonal
Yeah.
across. Yeah.
Currently, wouldn't be terrible if that one got taken away, honestly. But if they make the island smaller, you might be able to make the left-hand turn and then a right-hand turn into the park. But the traffic engineer is going to look at that. It's one of the things our engineer is going to
And
look
then
at.
you got fire truck turning radius. They're all right there.
And those islands impair that as well that they've built. And so I just want to give you one
Not built, but proposed.
proposed, sorry. So one last thing, budget. We originally authorized about $10,000 for one part of the project for our traffic consultant and $16,000 for the other. There's about a total between those two of about $7,000 left in our budget, just as a heads up for them to continue to do some of this work for
Well,
us.
should we now pause our engineers until we get some hard information back as to who owns this and?
Well, even if the things that we're asking them to work on,
Yeah.
regardless of who owns it, better continuing the bike lanes across the intersection to Main Street, things like that, they stopped everything.
Right.
Seth, and doing things like looking at Germain Avenue, which even if the county owns the intersection, do we want another turning lane there that would accommodate the park and the left turn that we currently make there?
But until the county sort of come to a final determination of what they're doing, is any design work that we would do be just speculative?
No, what we found was that they want to see the engineering work. They want to see the support. They would like to see things.
So we can influence their
Yes.
decisions.
And one of the other
Okay,
things
I get you.
they will need to look at and think about doing is keep in mind what we said earlier. We discovered that they're using 2016 traffic flow data. We might want to, if it's our intersection or if it's their intersection, any kind of a phase two, if possible, we'd want to use updated traffic information because it's not just about the intersection, it's about the flow that has changed dramatically in the last 8 years.
I would suggest if we're going to come up with something, or the engineers are gonna come up with something that we're gonna propose to the county,
Not definitive, just a few, we're just
Just
making
suggestions
suggestions.
that we should have we
Agreed,
should have public input.
agreed.
We should come up with a couple of ideas and bring it out, put it out to the public and see how our residents feel about these changes before we suggest to the county that this is
Agree
something that-
completely, but the first thing we want to do before we do that is find out who owns the friggin' intersection. Because it influences what we suggest and how we suggest. If
Right,
They
I
own it
agree.
versus we own it.
Right.
Right.
Is this
This
a
is
long
budget.
process to determine this?
It shouldn't be, but
I think everyone was shocked too.
listen, I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt. Right now, I think they have their lawyers looking at it to figure this out. I don't think they're just stonewalling us. It's only been a few weeks before.
Right.
Because by the way, this came about because our traffic engineer asked 2 different county employees where their responsibility ended, got 2 different answers. And then they said, and we called them on it, they're like, we need to research it. We need to look into this. I'm like, yes, you do.
All right. To be continued.
Yeah.
Anything else? That's it?
That's enough.
Okay, that brings us to trustee Corish with the sewer department, village grants and the ZBA.
Thank you, Mayor. We'll start the sewer report for February. Total gallons received was 1,367,000. We removed 20,800 gallons of sludge. DMO reports were forwarded on 2/5. Suffolk County DHS inspection was completed. Everything was sufficient and in compliance. That's the highest grade you can get from Suffolk County. New York State DEC inspection data as always is open. We had no complaints. For the month of February, the summary of operations from the team down there. The treatment plant is running well under all permitted levels. We're currently operating 2 of the 5 available basins. All grease traps in the village were inspected with several failures. All the failures are brought into compliance within 3 business days, and that's in compliance with the code. So everybody has a certain amount of time to become into compliance. The restaurant Vin Servant had their 900-gallon grease trap replaced with a 1,500-gallon tank, which is great. Eagle Control were out to replace a dissolved oxygen sensor in Basin 2. The flow from January through February was decreased by 324,000 gallons. And so that's the sewer report. We're also looking at, I've had conversations with Dee this week on upgrading the filtration of the air that will emanate from the mixing from the 2 sludge tanks, and that will help enormously. So we're looking at doubling the capacity of that. So we'll have more information on that next month. Regarding sewers, first I'd like to thank Trustee Kane brought to our attention. I think it was $80,000. There are about $78,000, $816,000 available from the water quality for the pump out boat this summer. I don't know if you want to say anything on that at this
Well,
stage in more detail.
We just really want to thank Southampton for alerting us that the sludge removal from the pump out boats could be eligible for this. And 14th of this month is when the application needs to be in, but they've been very helpful and supportive. So
That application's ready to go.
application's in, it has to.
Yeah, and we have a resolution tonight on that. And also Southampton CPF water quality, this round of grants is open until, I think it's the 14th or the 15th, 14th this week. And we're submitting a grant for K&L. As you know, we were shorter funds when the bids came back for $2,245,219. So we're submitting that application this week. And again, there's a resolution on for that. So that would mean they were fully funded for the project, which would be fantastic. And that concludes my report, Mayor.
Thank you, Trustee Corish. So before I get to Trustee Plum, I just wanted to mention a few things. Basically, a clock report. We had the new clock, yes, that the Sag Harbor Partnership had raised money for to purchase the clock. And Leo's Electric came with his bucket truck. He told me that we weren't going to get a bill, that he was doing the work for nothing. So it basically, it didn't cost the taxpayers a penny
Fantastic.
to get the new,
Wow.
the new clock.
Which clock you're talking about?
This is the clock on the front of the municipal building.
Mhm.
The other clock has now broken again. So
It was
we're
working
in
fine.
it was working for a couple of weeks and it's down again. So we're looking at possibly having the manufacturer come in and completely refurbish it. Getting prices on that, but
I've been
one
telling
clock
people-
comes up, the other one went down. So
I've been telling people I had a hand in that project.
there you go. I mean, like the hour hand or the minute hand?
Is this
So-
that hour hand that stopped working?
Yeah. Well, maybe you need to get back out there.
So it's good to see the clock. It's a nice looking
Yeah.
clock
Yeah.
up on Main
Thanks
Street.
and
It's
to
the-
Leo's.
It's the right time too.
Okay, that brings me to Trustee Plum for Public Works, Board of Historic Preservation and Architectural Review.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. For the superintendent, the Department of Public Works, 2 ice and snow weather events during the months. Road were pre-treated with brine, ice operations, et cetera. All roads continue to be swept. Highway maintenance crews assisted harbor master preparing the area for the meat storage shed, which I'm not sure where that is. Asphalt patching and repair continued needed. Crews continue cleanup of the village shoulders and road ends. Several wind events, down trees and limbs during the month, so they went around cleaning them up. Highway crews have been assessing signage, cleaning and replacing as needed. They seem to like get run over periodically, so it's sort of an ongoing thing. As far as the HPARB goes, it would really had good luck, good results with bringing Dave Harvey on. He's really starting to crack the whip and in terms of reviewing plans prior to the meeting and getting members to look at the plans prior to the meeting. They have an open, it's a public, it starts at 5, the actual meeting starts at 6, and they have a public discussion session about the applications from 5 to 6. And then at 6, the meeting starts, so that people aren't looking at them for the first time. And then he's had a chance to just address certain more technical things. You realize this clearing is this and whatever, but it's worked really well. And he's sending things back, if the drawing's not complete, we can't accept this, which wasn't happening really before. So that's great. I'm really enthused about that. And as I said last month, we're gonna have a couple new faces on the HVARB following the elections. So we'll wait and see to report on that. The Environmental Action Committee, since Mary Ann Eddy gets into stuff, the Sag Transfer Station is open. If you go down there now, you can recycle food. That's right. It's in the first bay where the garbage bags go. So you can bring food and put it
Compost.
in there.
Yeah.
And it cuts down the bulk and the cost too, because you don't have to put in one of those town bags. EAC member Maria Dianora, who guides the Young Environmental Group and the South Fork Natural History Museum, announced a showing of short films made by local young environmentalists this Sunday at the museum from 1 to 2. It's a bunch of little kids.
There's flyers on the table over there about that movie. And
Flyers on the table over there.
Thank you, Kate.
Thanks.
Thank you. And then Dr. Gogler gave his annual water report. And it's, there are exceptionally, it varies, it's too complicated to go into here, but it needs to be, some areas need to be addressed. That's all I can say. And then the tree frond brochure is being updated and will include highlights of the 2024 tree preservation law. Okay, I don't know what that is, but they're still not entirely happy with the rule as written.
Well, there's quite a few municipalities who have used our law as a
really?
template,
Yeah.
so.
Good.
It's a new law, it's out there, let's see, if there's areas we need to toughen up or straighten out.
Right.
We'll get feedback from the building department
And I know that the Meadowlark Lane case is ongoing. They keep coming up for reasons to adjourn. But I know that the court is taking it seriously, put it that way. So
right,
that's all I can say.
thank you.
All right, thank
Trustee
you. That's it.
Thank you. That brings us to Trustee Kane with the Building Department, Harbor and Docks and Harbor Committee.
Okay, great. For the docks report, for the most part, it's pretty quiet on the water. We do have the small sailboats that do races still on the weekend. They are very aggressive, and we admire them for that. We did have to use the ice heaters a bit for 5 days this past month. But the great thing is we've had no ice damage at all to any of the facilities. So they proved to be very successful. They were removed at the end of the month. They power washed and put away. We did have a new shed that was delivered, which really will be helpful because some of the equipment that was in there was becoming damaged with the mildew and we had leaks there. So we've addressed all that. So that's been a welcome addition and everything's in good space there. With regard to the reservations, we continue to take reservations on the transient dock. The Long Wharf is completely booked for the season. And we're also finished with all the seasonal slips and moorings. So been very successful in that regard. And then the Dockmaster's skiff is back in the water and the Harbor Master's boat will probably go in the next week. With regard to revenues, Charles had given an update. For the month of February, we were 404,915. That's running ahead of last year. And so where we are year to date is just above 1.5 million, which is about 15% ahead of last year, 2024. So that's for the harbor. With regard to the building department, to give you an update, we did have 10 rental permits that were produced during the month. Building permits, 5. Number of certificates of occupancy were 13, and the number of violations were 21. So pretty normal for the month. We are running about 16% just for the month of January and February behind 2024. But as we know, the months are pretty lumpy, so we're not concerned about that. And with regard to the fire marshal, he was very busy for the month, had 13 fire safety inspections that all went well, about 23 complaints that were taken and addressed, 12 violation notices written. He has begun doing special event reviews. There were 3 of those, and plan reviews. There were 4 of those. So as the people are planning for the summer events, those things have been working smoothly. There were 10 tree removal inspections. So with regard to the tree code that we put in seems to be working fine, and we continue to be helping North Haven, and that's going well as well. And then just to add a little bit with what Trustee Plum said, at the Harbor Committee meeting last week, Dr. Gobler of Stony Brook came and did present. It is a 45-page document. I believe Connie just put it up on the website so people can look at the detail. But I would say what we asked Dr. and his team to do is really look back at some of the past studies that they did between 2018 and 23, and then last year. And Havens Beach is very much a focal point that we're focused on. As we know, we will have the RFP that we'll sign tonight. And so it's a big step for the village now to be able to put that grant money to work, which we very much look forward to then figure out how we can mitigate this bacteria that is coming out of the Havens Beach pump, or sump, I should say. There are 11 marine sites, won't go through all of them, and then 10 storm drains that were looked at. So these are the things just to understand that we're looking at all the different bodies of water and seeing how we can look to mitigate any of the issues. Please, if anyone goes through the study and has any questions, what Dr. Gobler has agreed to is that if there are questions from anyone, we can submit them through Doris in the building department, who assists the Harbor Committee. And then we will submit those questions to Dr. Gobler, and then everyone can see the answers. So that's a process that we look to put in place. And that's it.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Kane. I need a motion to accept the department reports.
So moved.
Motion by Trustee Corus, a second.
Second.
Seconded by Deputy Mayor Hay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. That brings us now to our public comments. We have 15-minute public session input for comments and questions. Limit 3 minutes per speaker concerning the treasurer's report or the department reports. Anybody like to comment? Any comments? Yes.
Hi, Leanne Applewhite, Sag Harbor Hills. Good evening.
Can you hang on 1 second? We have somebody in the audience that wants to speak. If you could just hold on 1 second. No, go ahead. You have the floor.
Okay. Alison Bond, I live at 61 Jermaine Avenue, and I'm concerned. Okay, I just want to make clear that the tree fund is not responsible for and doesn't plant in anything but the village property. In other words, we plant in the village, on village property, on the verges, but not in people's garden or properties. And so there are different regulations, I think, that cover those things. I mean, does the code cover both?
You're talking about the tree legislation we
Yes,
passed?
yes.
That's for residents.
Yeah,
That's for
Tree
removing
legislation.
trees.
that's for tree removal.
Yes, but Yes, I know.
It doesn't authorize the use of your tree fund, that you guys have.
No, it's completely
No,
separate.
that
completely
The-
separate.
The
They're not touching
homeowners
it.
would have
Yeah.
to
It's
pay.
not replacing trees on private property.
Yeah.
No, not at all.
Yeah, no, we're not using your tree fund, no.
Thank you.
Oh, you're
All right.
You're welcome.
Okay, now there was somebody on,
On Sag Harbor Hills.
Yes, thank you. Good evening. I had two questions. Just one regarding the sewer repair issues.
Okay.
Would any of that be at all near the Sag Harbor Hills, Azarest, Nineveh area? I didn't think so, but I just wanted to confirm.
No, currently we're working with two areas in the village, two zones, which we refer to as K and L. K is essentially west of Main Street, that area, the low-lying area, Rose Bridge, Meadow Street, and extending west. And then L is an area that's close to the sewage treatment plant, to be Rysam Street in that general area. We do have, and it's available if you want to, either you can download it, is the full sewer master plan of the village that was prepared in advance of this work. And then you can see where your home sits within the various zones that the village has described, and you'll get some idea of, it's going to be a slow process. It's enormously expensive, and we're focusing on areas close to the water and close to the sewage treatment plant because obviously it's less expensive.
Okay, thank you. And regarding the Havens Beach sewage pump issue, that sort of comes also to our three private beaches. Are there any risk of contamination, increased or changing contamination issue with that process?
Just to clarify, that's stormwater, not sewage.
Right.
yeah,
So
there's
we
no
had
sewage
with
there.
the study for the stormwater, we got a grant from New York State to conduct a study of the watershed for Havens Beach. So we've finally gone through all of the processes required. So we have an RFP going out tonight so that we can engage with the suitable engineering company to do the work. And essentially we'll look at where the water's coming from that's coming down to the green on Havens Beach, and what we can do to mitigate that water supply. And that's a stage one. Stage two then will be a separate project, which is looking at the beach itself. But the first thing we need to know is how much water is coming down there, where it's coming from, and what can we do to mitigate it. So
Mitigate the contaminants that's coming down through the stormwater.
exactly, and maybe all that stormwater doesn't have to come all the way down, that we may be able to divert it upstream and put it into, and get it to move underground back there.
Because part of the problem is that all the runoff overwhelms basically the rain garden.
Mhm.
Too much water going through there, so it's supposed to be able to meander and thereby lose its nitrogen to the
Yeah.
plants that are there. But if too much water shoots through it, goes too fast.
Well, there's the two different things. It's the nitrogen or the bacteria. That's,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we do have those sponges. There's a chamber under the parking lot at Havens Beach, but that also has a bypass so that it can only filter so much water. It does a really good job at doing the general background flow. But when we get these really heavy rainfalls, 3, 4, 5 inches an hour, it essentially overwhelms everything. So this study is the first step to try and come up with a solution for Havens Beach. So I'd like to thank everybody who's worked on it to get it this far, and hopefully we'll be talking solutions in the not too distant future.
Okay, that sounds awesome. Thank you so much. And lastly, regarding Public Works, I don't know if this comes under that purview regarding the road paving situation that went on in the Sag Harbor Hills area with the gravel pavement that turned out to be rather disruptive and disturbing and still causing some concern. I don't know if that was brought up at all.
We did, myself and the clerk did meet with Lisa De Samors after the gravel was put down. And we said that we would go in and, because there was a dust problem and there were some issues with that we would mitigate it. But the problem was there was no rain. And then literally 2 days after we met, there had been a couple of days of constant rain. I didn't get any more feedback from Lisa. And from what I heard, the issue was resolved. Are you saying there's still issues going on with that, or?
There's still somewhat the remaining gravel still seems somewhat an issue, especially as we're getting towards the spring and the summer, with kids on bikes and kind of playing on the neighboring streets. And so there may be an opportunity to circle back and follow up to see if it's really mitigated or not.
Is this that we lay down tar and gravel on top?
Yes.
Well, my experience with that on Howard Street a number of years ago is that as the weather gets warmer, the gravel is absorbed into the tar and tends to adhere to the road surface. I'm not saying that that's an ideal situation, but that's just been like my anecdotal experience with it, that eventually it does bind, and the warmer weather helps enormously in doing that.
And the dust that's in the gravel washes off.
Yeah.
Eventually.
So
So I'll follow up with Dee from Public Works and see if we can take a ride through there and see exactly what's going on, and if there's anything we could do to make the situation better.
Yes, I think part of it is that, as you can imagine, over the winter, there's really not that much traffic. So I think that leads to that gravel just sitting and not getting impacted to the tar is what's commonly, I think, the outcome.
Okay. We'll take a look at it for you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
That's it from me. Thanks.
Thank you. Kate?
Just a quick clarification. The tree fund is redoing, as Bob said, the brochure for that people know that they can give a donation and have a tree planted and honor someone. And part of that is an educational piece. We wanted to have, and Eileen worked it out, some bullet post pieces of our tree legislation, so we can put that in the brochure to try to help people understand that we're planting trees, but we have to be careful. As an educational, it's a way to get the word around about our wonderful tree legislation. That's
Great.
great. Thank you very much.
Yes, Lily.
Hello, everyone. How are you?
Hi.
Lily.
Hi, Lily Fell, 187 Germain Avenue. I just wanted to circle back about a couple things from the last meeting. If there was any progress on the Havens Beach sign.
I asked, and they said they take it down every winter. Now, I know you said it hasn't been there for the last couple of years, so I have to get to the bottom of that, but according to Mike Cohen, they take it down in the fall because it flies around in the wind. So I'd have to ask him.
Okay, I don't think it's been up because for the past 2 years, I'd gone to make a little anchor that I was gonna put up with greenery, then got too busy with clients, and my friend said, hey, Lily, that's been sitting there for 2 winters, you haven't done anything with it. But I sort of differed with it.
And no sign at all?
There is no sign at Havens Beach at all. So
All right, I'll ask him again.
Thank you very much, I appreciate that. Then I wanted to follow up with the pedestrian crossing sign at Atlantic Avenue and at Clinton Avenue. I'd spoken to Chief Drake, who was helpful, and Dee was great, and put a sign up at Atlantic Avenue, or the crossing sign there. And then Chief said that it had been run over about 4 or 5 times, which I thought was interesting, and better to run over the sign than a child. So then last Thursday, it's funny, I came at Harbor Committee. I left and I looked and I thought, son of a gun, the sign is gone. I came back after Harbor Committee, the sign was there. Then the next morning it was gone. So I spoke with Severina, she said they believed the sign was finally run over and killed, so they dragged it off. And that they were concerned about the cost of the signs and replacing it. So I just really like to ask if you would think about that. I looked into the cost of the signs. With tax and delivery, it's about $420. And I wonder, that's a great investment as opposed to having a child hit. And Chief Drake also commented that it had noticeably slowed the traffic pattern down. And this is a tactic often taken in traffic calming by giving them diversions. And I noticed, because living there, I figured, well, I've been here now 13 years in my house. Roughly 2 months of the year I'm away. But other than that, that's 3,900 days that I oversee that traffic area. So I feel confident in saying, you know, supporting my comments, but I would really ask you to put 2 crossing signs or put that crossing sign back. I think it's a good investment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One more thing. Also, I wanted to talk to you about the lighting. Because last time I came, I asked about the lighting down by the docks. And I should have backed it up and read the village code. So I did. And going through it, there are a few things that sort of troubled me. And then it talks about municipal lighting, commercial lighting, but non-residential and municipal lighting. There's so many things. I urge you to read the code, and your building inspector even commented on how many violations the village has. And given that we're an historic code, and we asked our residents to take care of their houses, reshingle them in cedar, look after them, isn't this important? I think we've become scared of the dark. And we have to realize that sometimes lighting, certain lighting is enough. You look outside the Apple Bank, there's an additional light. It's so overlit. By the windmill, there's a light now that's built up on the flagpole, pointing out to sea. It's information on Coast Guard. It's also against the Harbor Committee code, or the Harbor LWRP. The LWRP regarding light pollution for the harbor. I really ask you to take a look at this extra light that's not necessary. I understand it's important to have safety when the bartenders are leaving, say, the corner bar or going to the back parking lots. We don't want them to be unsafe, but we say we're dark skies. We asked our citizens to comply, and we have code. So,
I just want to make one comment.
yes.
For years, every single street light in this village did not comply with dark sky. The new lights do. Every single one of the new fixtures that you see that's been replaced does comply with dark sky. So we have made an effort to try to make things the way they're supposed to be. There are certain times when it's a safety issue, where you have to do a balance act. As you said, you know, we want things to be safe also. But as far as enforcing the dark sky law, that's not something that this board does. We pass the laws, and then it's up to the code enforcement to enforce those laws. If there's a problem, somebody complains usually to Bruce, because he, you know, he can't see everything, and he'll go and address the issue. That's the way it works.
But then who's the person that actually puts these extraneous light fixtures on that are over the kelvins that you are
Well,
putting?
where is that?
If you look at.
On municipal
the
property?
corner of, on municipal property, on the telephone pole at the corner of Tutorial Shorno. On the center island by the blue spruce, that there's now an additional light that overlooks the windmill. Outside the Apple Bank, there's, I call them the sheet pan lights.
We just had all the lights redone
They're not
and
shielded.
upgraded, most of them, if not all of them. And they're supposed to be set between a certain Kelvin. And D has lowered the lights to fit that. So you're saying there's a couple more that aren't.
They're all correct.
So we'll bring that to D's attention and see what he, if that in fact is the case.
I appreciate that, thank you.
We can do that.
But I think the way to do it is to identify a list of the specific ones you're seeing, and submitting those to the building department.
Yep.
Okay.
We've done that in the past, as you know. You had conversations with me and we've addressed it. So we could certainly do that.
And he was very helpful in turning down the lights outside of my house a little bit more in other areas that people complained about. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
You're
very
welcome.
much.
You know, it's a bad one is the M&T Bank. They've got 4 bright, it looks like Yankee Stadium, it lights almost across the whole.
I noticed that as well recently, and they're very blue-white. They're
Blue light, yeah.
So M&T and Apple Bank are both completely out of compliance, and they're coming before the ARB to redo their facades.
So that would be the
That's
time to
an
address it.
ideal
Yeah.
opportunity to address
Yes,
this.
and I
Well,
just-
you should be at that meeting and say, and
Well, I've spoken to Tien about it, and I'll be at the ARB meeting.
I would say,
without a doubt.
I would say go to the meeting, yeah.
but again, you know, there's a parking lot there.
There
And,
is.
you know, the village is using that lot. I don't want to say us as a municipality, but people that come and visit the village go into that parking lot, as you know, when it gets busy in the summer, and it's basically an open lot for
Yeah.
people to park.
I think the lights we're talking
So-
about are on the face of the building, looking at Main
Right.
Street.
I don't have any issues with that parking lot, and I think it's essential.
I'm just saying, you just got, again, take into balance, those lights are probably overkill.
Again,
But-
I have no issues with the parking lot lights, because I think I applaud any safety for the workers getting to and from. My issue is the front, the facade
Right.
lights. Those are the ones that are out of compliance. And I understand there are separate New York State banking light laws, so. But thank you
There you
very
go.
much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? I think we're up to about 15 minutes anyway. Yep. Okay, that brings us to introduction. We have a resolution to schedule a public hearing on Tuesday, April 8th, 2025, to consider local law amending Village Code 220-3.2, general sewer use permits, 220-3.3, special sewer use permits, 220-6.9A, sewer connection fee, to update the sewer connection fees, require the Village Board of Trustees to issue special sewer use permits instead of the superintendent, and reduce the threshold for requiring special sewer use permits from the Village Board of Trustees. Council, would you like to just do a brief on this?
So this is a local law that there'll be a public hearing April 8th to consider amending the sewer use permits, which are currently issued by the superintendent. And it would authorize the Village Board of Trustees to issue sewer use permits. It would also lower the threshold for a special sewer use permit, because the general sewer use permits would be for those uses that are 1 unit or less, and those would still be issued by the superintendent. But when it's a special sewer use permit for a larger use, it would be issued by this board instead. And so that's the main
So one.
part of the change. One, would reduce the special sewer use permit threshold from 6 units normally to now it would be 1 unit, would make it over 1 unit, it would be required to be issued by this board.
And this is sort of bringing
And the
this,
sewer use permit, I'm sorry, the
It's
sewer
okay.
use units are listed in Village Code section 226.2. And so there's different units assigned to each use, so,
So it's clarifying the distinction between a general use permit
yes.
Yeah.
and a special permit, and the special use permit comes to the board, but
Correct,
still goes through the superintendent for recommendations.
yes, exactly.
yep.
And this is really updating a law that hasn't been looked at for quite some time.
It also affects the fees, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
the fees like $10 listed in the code, so
Code, yeah.
it would increase that. as
So we're introducing this law, so we'll set the public hearing for April 8th. I need a motion
I'll make that motion.
motion by trustee Corr, second.
Second.
Seconded by trustee Plum. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So the law is introduced. We also have a resolution to schedule a public hearing, again, on Tuesday, April 8th, 2025, to consider a local law amending the Sag Harbor Village Code, Chapter 250, taxation to add ocean rescue squad members as eligible to receive a property tax exemption pursuant to New York State Real Property Tax Law 466-M.
So this is just another local law that came from the state amending its tax law to allow for ocean rescue squads to partake in that 10% real property tax discount that are afforded to voluntary fire department and ambulance services. And ocean rescue squads members would be added to that as well.
Do I have a motion to introduce?
I'll move it.
Motion by Deputy Mayor Hay, second. Seconded by trustee Plum. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So the law is introduced. That brings us now to discussion items. We have local law of 2025 to amend the Village Code 300-9.12 accessory apartments in the R20 zoning district to clarify code provisions. This is a work in progress that the board is working on and making suggestions to make the law make it somewhat easier for those that already have accessory dwellings and would like to make them part of the housing stock. And there's also concerns about that in the village, density concerns. So we'd like to set a public hearing or public workshop, so to speak, to have the public come and discuss, what we're proposing and maybe get some opinions from them as to how we should craft this, or things that they like or don't like about the law.
Exactly.
So we'll set a date for that. Sometime, I think we should do it before the next board meeting, so towards the end of March,
I think the suggested date was the 22nd, if that worked.
March 22nd.
Second.
Let's set it for March 22nd.
And that would be a Saturday, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. The whole idea is to
So
allow
we'll
participation.
post when the meeting
Yeah.
is. So that brings us now to workshops. I don't believe we have anything, right, Connie? Nothing scheduled, but I do want to bring up the fact that myself and Trustee Kane were at a workshop meeting for East Hampton Town for the Community Housing Fund to purchase 109 Hampton Street, Sag Harbor. And what this is it's a multi-dwelling house. It's a historic house that East Hampton Housing Trust is going to come in with funds that our housing trust has to purchase the house and maintain it as historic and also maintain it as affordable housing. There's 4 units within the structure, and it will be managed by the East Hampton Housing Association Trust. There are a couple of dates that I'd like to share with the public. One is on March 20th, and on April 3rd, there will be a public hearing scheduled. So I would ask that the residents of the village go and show their support for this. And the town board votes on funding the award on April 8th. So this is exactly what I've been speaking about. As I've been discussing affordable housing, this is exactly what I see us doing in the village, which is instead of building affordable housing, to maintain it where it is, especially if it's within a historic structure. It preserves the structure, it preserves the housing, and it gives opportunities to our volunteers, our fire department, our ambulance workers, teachers, police, to stay in the community. There was a gentleman at the workshop who lives in the apartment, and he's a volunteer who volunteers for certain organizations, and he was very happy that his home, basically where he lives, was going to remain affordable, that he was not going to be thrown out and displaced by somebody who comes in and purchases it. And most of the time it's a single family residence and people get displaced. So this is a win for us. And I hope the village residents come to the workshops and show their support.
Where are the workshops?
They're going to be, I believe, at the Montauk Library.
I don't know if they're all going to be there. I was trying to confirm that today. As soon as we know the dates, I just want to nail down, are they all the hour and where they're going to be
We're
held?
going to post it on the website.
So as soon as we have it.
The details of it, but all the council members were in support of the purchase. So this is us partnering with the town to sustain affordable housing.
We really appreciate all the work that all the different parties in East Hampton, between the housing fund and then those who will manage it going forward, really did a spectacular job in working quickly so that we continue to progress on this. It's not done, but we're moving in the right direction for sure.
And this board, has been committed to help with the affordable housing situation in the village, and this ADU law that we're looking at should help, once we fine tune it. So it just shows that we're continuing, and David Lees did mention, thanked the board for all their work on it. So I just want to mention that. That brings us now to our action items. Resolution, March 2025, resolution retaining IMEG Consultants Corporation, formerly Cameron Engineering, for engineering services at 5 Washington Street. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by trustee Corish. Have a second?
Second.
Seconded by trustee Kane. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Resolution authorizing the mayor to sign an agreement with Edmunds GovTech. This is what Charles was speaking about our software update. Do I have a motion?
Move.
Motion by trustee Plum, second.
Second.
Seconded by deputy mayor Hay. All those in
Just a
favor?
question about this though. I was holding off the question. So is Charles still on?
Dropped off.
Connie, you're on there, right?
You're on now.
So it can be answered later, but my question is about the data transfer, data conversion. Familiar with that at all?
From what I recall, I think they're going to send us templates where we would have to enter in all the data.
So we'd have to manually enter
I
in the,
believe so.
how many years of data are we looking at converting?
That I'm not sure about, how far we want to go back, if we also want to keep info fund as well. If we want to just do the last few years in the new system and then still keep.
Info fund as a,
Info fund.
as a repository?
Correct.
Okay. That was
It'll
my concern.
certainly keep somebody busy in the office.
Yeah, my,
Odd, you'd have to do manual entry though, for some reason.
well, they might be electronic templates, but it'd be, if there's some automation to the data
Can you
conversion.
do scanning with character recognition?
Possibly, it's the only issue is with info fund, we can't export anything to Excel.
Hmm.
Everything shows up as a PDF document.
But maybe they have conversion tools, electronic
Possibly.
conversion
Yeah.
tools.
We've used, I know in our office, we've scanned PDFs and with
Yeah.
character recognition, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
If you have a decent original.
I mean, if you've got unstructured data, they've got tools for that. If you've got structured data,
Yeah.
they've got tools for that. We should look at and see what their conversion tools are rather than tying up people's time manually to try to do this, because mistakes will be made. On the more mistakes will be made on the manual. You can test the conversion if it's automated.
Yeah, you can compare.
That's a good call.
We can ask the question. I think it's a good question.
Okay. Thanks, Connie.
Okay, so we have the resolution before us authorizing the mayor to sign an agreement with Edmunds GovTech. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved in second. Who's moved in second?
Aye.
Right.
I think,
All those in favor?
I think the one thing we'll have to look at, if there is an automated data solution, it might be more money. But it might be
Well,
worth it
that'll
for
be
us
a
to consider.
separate
Yeah,
resolution down the road.
exactly.
We can do that.
Will they both run concurrently at first, or they just?
you'd have a dead repository of infotech, you know, you just look at it to research information, you wouldn't use it as your ongoing system of
Right.
record.
Yeah.
And that means you're working off of two systems, which will be problematic. I mean, I've seen that in the past and it's
Just, you
not
gotta
ideal.
start somewhere,
yeah.
you know, otherwise it'll never make
In
progress.
ideal, we convert as much data as possible
Yeah.
that you're using, and certainly that fits like things like the statute of limitations, but it doesn't sound like that's going to be the case unless it's automated. Thanks.
Resolution to authorize the mayor to execute any and all documents pertaining to the CPF Water Quality Improvement Program for marine waste removal for the 2025 boating season. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by trustee Kane, second.
So this is the 78,000.
Yeah,
Right.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Resolution to authorize the mayor to revise and resubmit the 2023 application to the CPF Water Quality Improvement Program for supplemental funds in the amount of $2,245,219 for sewer sheds K and L.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by trustee Corr, second.
One second.
Seconded by trustee Plum. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Resolution for mayor to sign authorization for Good Energy LP. Did you want to speak on that, Mr. Carey?
Sure.
Just a brief,
Council. I'll try to be as brief as possible. Spoke to a colleague, the trustee Hayes, and we had a nice conversation on energy before we got here. So I'll give a very brief history about myself, the company, and then what I'm trying to accomplish for this village of Sag Harbor. My name is Edward Carey, and I'm local. I'm over in Shelter Island. And so I've been spending a big part of my life on the east end of Long Island, and now here full time. But I work for a company. My entire background is energy. I've been doing energy since the day I was basically born. My grandfather was an energy guy. My dad was an energy guy, so following those footsteps. And from there, my career has basically been work for my family for a while, then worked for the city of New York. So I was part of the Giuliani administration, the Bloomberg administration, doing energy projects for the city. From there, I then joined into Armorada Hess Corporation. And from Hess Corporation, I joined to a company called Good Energy. And Good Energy is, we go around the country. We have 5 offices: Boston, New York City, Peoria, Illinois, Dallas, Texas, and London, England. And we cover very large real estate. So if it's something like Jones Lang LaSalle or Vernado or something like that, we go after. The primary specialty of our company is government. We probably cover, I would guess, maybe 3,000 to 5,000 municipalities across the country. We're very large in state of Illinois, we're in Texas, we have some in California. In New Jersey, we probably cover about 400 municipalities there, under the leadership of, it's called the Education Service Commission of New Jersey, ESCNJ. We brought that platform into the state of New York, and in the state of New York, you have NISAC, which covers all the counties, 61 counties. You have NICOM, which is 520 of which are a member, obviously, and then you have AOT, which you have 900 plus or whatever of supervisors. So AOT and NICOM came together and they created NIMEP, which is the New York Municipal Energy Program, of which I run. And I circle the state on a monthly basis. My week basically is in New York City, then Binghamton, Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse, Plattsburgh, Albany, and back down. And so we represent a lot of municipalities. And what as a member of NICOM, you can benefit off of our leadership and what other municipalities are doing. We what we want to do here is we did a couple of years back, we had a very large natural gas consortium between a majority of Nassau County and in Suffolk County. We had Mangano and Boulogne come together and they created the Long Island Purchasing Council. And then below that, you had 105 political subdivisions. And it saved, a obscene amount of money, like 40 or 50 million dollars, especially for the schools. And then unfortunately, when Mangano got into a little problem, the whole program sort of went gut by. And now the two county executives, whoever the program do, have want to bring it back. In that time period, LIPA had basically, they were not revealing how they do their pricing structure. National Grid was behaving. We could get in there and do a deal, but with the LIPA, it was basically a black box.
Question, are you talking about just the commodity charges or the commodity and the distribution charges for
I'm
energy?
only talking about supply, so I was gonna get to that.
Okay,
So so in that time period, we, a thing came along into Long Island called community choice aggregation, where LIPA had to, especially PSEG, had to reveal how they do their pricing structure. And since that time, every supply company that comes through, when you look at your bill, you look at basically the three main components is your transportation, your distribution, and the supply portion. I am only talking about the supply portion. Transportation and distribution is 100% controlled by the monopoly, which is PSE&G. It's their equipment, they maintain it, and that's how they get paid. They do not get paid on the supply portion, and that's where I would like to talk to you about. So in that time period,
are you talking about electric supply only as well?
I want to talk about electric because there I can make a difference. Right now, I think the price of natural gas is too high. I will be looking at both, but right now, I think you're in the money to do something on the electric side, on the natural gas thing, because of everything politically, everything going on, the weather, energy is through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
So if you did a natural gas deal right now, I would not encourage that. I would wait for the market to sort of calm down and then possibly we can do something. But on the electric side, every supplier basically, this is zone K, as you would know, and it was just you couldn't do business here. You couldn't bring electricity into Long Island because LIPA just basically wouldn't allow it. So we've gone out to bid with several other municipalities. Town of Hempstead has passed a resolution, they're fully on board, they're going forward. We're talking to North Hempstead, Babylon has signed our LOA to go forward. East Hampton is signed, West Hampton is signed, Southampton is signed, so you're not reinventing the wheel here. All we want you to do here is you have a copy of the letter of authorization. I get that, I then send it to Liz Altman, who was a former legislator in Scotland. She's now does government affairs for PSEG. She sends us the load data, we shape it and we see if we can do something.
Question, are you purchasing load for the entire group or individually for the municipality?
It's gonna be individual, a lot of people think, if do you join into the Hempstead pool, it's like go to Costco, buy in bulk, get a discount. We could do that, it depends on the trader at Calpine. When I was gonna go say, when we put this out to bid already, NRG has said no, they have no interest in this. Constellation, being the biggest generator in the United States, they've said no to this area. Calpine, because they have 5 generation assets on Long Island, have said, yes,
Are you putting this to bid directly to the generators or are you going through ESCOs?
Calpine is an ISCO.
So why does it matter that they have generation on Long Island?
I can't hear you.
Why does it matter that they have generation? An ESCO is an energy services company, right? They're buying and selling on the market, correct?
They're the only ones who's willing to take a risk here because they know the market better than anyone. Because they're an importer, exporter of power onto Long Island. Where the other, PSEC is buying, if it's on the wholesale, if it's Constellation, Energy, or Calpine Wholesale, they're buying that power through the ISO, as you would know. But on a retail portion, Energy, Constellation have said no, they have no interest here. Calpine Retail has said yes, they think they have a deal here. We've priced out the other townships, units, and as you can see from my proposal here, this is right off of, you can check on the LIPA website. 21, your price was averaging in 10, 22, because of Ukraine, you went up to basically 13, it was 12.8. 23, market calmed down, you're at 10.2, 24, 11, and then this has been a pretty brutal winter, and so it's skyrocketed. And so you've seen, electricity's, we've seen things in the 17 cents, but you're averaging in 12 to 12.4. Now with what's going on in the last 2 days with Canada, I don't know where prices are going. But our biggest thing is when we come to a municipality is right now, the village of Sag Harbor does not have an energy budget. It doesn't have it. And you sort of get the bills from last year, you sort of guess 5%, 10%, and you don't have a choice. Here, you because PSEC, that's your only choice. You take that and you swallow it. Whatever the price is, here you have a choice. What you can do here is, we're not saying, lock up 100% of it. I find that to be too risky. So we've designed here a seasonal hedge. And what we want to do here is, what we find, during you're coming into what they basically call the shoulder months, and where daylight savings happens, it's starting to get warmer. Today was a beautiful day. So you're not really using that much energy. You're using less and less energy every day as the weather comes up. So, and then obviously comes summertime, air conditioning comes in, and you have the big volatile spikes. So we're saying you should hedge 50% of your electricity load. We find that to be an intelligent thing to do. I mean, 99% of private businesses are doing this. You think government should be doing this as well. And then as we're gonna lock up about 75% of the electricity during the summer months. And then September, again, you have the dip, but you have hurricane in there, so it could be a spike. So we're locking up 50, and then the winter months, we could tailor it to 80 to 85.
When you say you're locking them up, for how long are you locking them up for?
Typical contracts are with municipalities are 24 to 36 months. You can do 1 year if you'd like. I mean, it's really up to you. We sort of, if you do 1 year, you're going through this process again in 6 months. So.
Does the price vary depending on how long the contract might be? Will you get a better price on a longer term contract?
Depending on the market. I mean, I could come back, right now, the answer is yes. The market is, the farther I go out right now, I'm seeing it cheaper, but I could come back here with, I don't know what your charter is. I mean, most government, you can't go past 36 months for nepotism laws or something like that. So some units I've done 5 years. They've done very well. It really depends on what you're allowed to do and how long you're allowed to go out. I can come back here, I might have a 27-month contract. I don't know. That's why I would like to get the LOA and to send it to PSEC, I get the load, and then I come back with a proper proposal. My other proposals around Long Island, like Hempstead, they got 500 grand. Babylon is in, I think, about 100 grand. West Hampton was 5. I mean, we're only talking about the village infrastructure here. We're not talking about residential, we're not talking, so again, your street or something like that. we could take on and hedge. Right now, you're at the whim of whatever the market goes. The market goes up and down every single day. And we were trying to encourage you to take hold, but take 25% of it, or take 50. You know, we're recommending 50, but if you want to take this very slow, you can do it 25.
So if we could say that probably the biggest variable in our our electric bill is the commodity charge. Correct. And so what this does, it just mitigates the fluctuations, mitigates some of the risk. But it doesn't, it won't necessarily reduce them depending on where the market goes too.
That's correct. I mean, you're taking like any commodity. You wanna, it's an insurance policy is sort of what you're taking on here and saying you're eliminating the risk. Right now, what's your budget going forward on the next 24 months? You don't know.
But we're not eliminating the risk if we're only hedging 50%. We're mitigating the risk of that
Right.
50%.
A question that Liz might help in answering. Our biggest user of electricity is sewage treatment plant. Because the biggest consumer of electricity that we have is our sewage treatment plant as an entity. Would that need a separate contract, seeing as it's a separate?
No, it's part of the municipal, no, it'd be part of it.
It's a separate tax.
It's owned by the village.
We could do both. I mean, we could put it together because that actually, if it's a very large load, you could help out the smaller stuff. But if we could turn it like in maybe 2 contracts or 1. We'll propose it both ways.
It's owned by the village. It would,
Yeah, I think it's a little more complicated than that. Let's look into it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a question, very basic question. If the fluctuation in power is with the commodity, which I take it is coal, nuclear and gas.
Yeah,
How does your thing work? Like are you sort of shorting gas in some ways or?
no. I mean, natural gas is the primary feedstock that creates electricity in the United States. Yes, you do have like in places Wyoming, Utah, there's coal there. And then the rest of the country down south in Virginia, it's like that, you have a lot of nuke plants. But the population, as we all know, is 330 million people in the United States. 250 million or 225 million people live east of the Mississippi. And then you take another 107 plus million goes from Washington DC up to Maine. That's where the bulk of the population is, and that's controlled by natural gas. And the natural gas majority is coming in from the Gulf of Mexico, then you have Marcellus in Pennsylvania, Bakken out in the Dakotas. And then, yes, we are bringing down some Canadian gas and Canadian power.
They just,
And that's gonna be.
5%.
No, they just bought.
I think it's going up. And
Nothing's going down. Let's put it that way.
because
Well,
everything
It fluctuates, it absolutely
Oh,
fluctuates.
yeah, I know that.
We're in peak season right now.
everything is being electrified, cars, this, that, home, so.
Data
The biggest
centers.
consumer of energy right now is data centers, AI.
Right.
So you've been reading about this, so AI is going this way, we're here with generation. So AI, it takes 2 years to build a data center, it takes 5 to 7 years to build a generation center. So we have no clue on how we're gonna hit this, none. So the only where it's gonna go, the price is up. Yes, if we go into a recession or something like that, manufacturing is the biggest consumer of power, so if you have less manufacturing, you might have more power out in the grids, but right now, we're on a pretty shaky territory right now. So we think it's a very good thing, at least for 24 months, to do a responsible thing and lock up part of your power. Once we do that, we will be coming back here and saying, all right, we've looked at the market, maybe there is a play for natural gas. But right now, we're not here to, we're doing a lot, like I do all of the town of Hempstead, I do all of their natural gas. And they did it 2 years ago. They're doing phenomenal right now. Gas was under $3, now it's approaching $5. They're printing money right now at that.
So I don't want to cut you off. I asked you to be brief, so we've got this is.
So what do we ask?
What we're doing
authorize?
tonight is authorizing you to get the load, right? And then you'll come back with us with the contracts. Is that correct?
who
We're
present?
just getting you to start the process. That's what tonight's for.
Okay.
I asked this man to come and speak to the board, and I think this is important because it gives us some form of predictability moving forward with budgets and costs rising, with insurance and all other costs. this is something maybe we can stabilize. So that was my whole intent in getting involved.
Do we need to specify a term for?
That
proposed
comes later.
contract?
Not yet.
That comes
You'll,
later.
that'll come with
Right.
the
I didn't
proposal.
have that information.
Okay, that's fine.
This
but
is
you'll
just to
do-
authorize him to do the study for us.
Okay, great.
When do you expect to come back?
Well, it's like, I mean, like anywhere I go, anywhere, in Con Edison, it takes me 5 days to get the PSEG Long, it takes 2 weeks. So it's.
So next board meeting.
By April,
Huh?
by April 8th, you could be back.
I can't.
Our next board meeting is April 8th.
Oh, yeah, I should have that. I mean, like,
Okay.
Okay.
this woman, Liz Altman, is, she's new there, not new, but she really like set up a fire under a lot of people's, so it's like, it's nice to have that.
Great.
So thank you, Mr. Carey.
Thank you.
Appreciate
you.
Appreciate you being here.
Yeah.
So I need a motion.
I'll move it.
Motion by Deputy Mayor Hay, second.
Second.
Seconded by Trustee Kane. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Resolution to award requests for proposals for construction management for village sewer service expansion, sewer sheds K and L. Resolved that the village hereby retains LKMA for the construction management for the village sewer service expansion, sewer sheds K and L at a cost not to exceed $921,200 as set forth in its proposal. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Motion by Trustee Plum, second.
I'll move.
Seconded by Deputy Mayor Hay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Resolution authorizing the mayor to sign an agreement with Surfmaster Sport Fishing Charters. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Trustee Corr, second.
Second.
Seconded by Deputy Mayor Hay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Resolution to accept retirement of Jason E. Prieston. And I just want to say, I want to thank Jason for all his service to the village over the years. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Trustee Kane, second.
Second.
Seconded by Trustee Corus. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Resolution for request for proposal, launch service for the 2025 boating season. Do I have a resolution?
So moved.
Motion by Trustee Kane, second.
Second.
Seconded by Trustee Corus. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Resolution to appoint Jake Fiso as the representative of the Village of Sag Harbor to the East Hampton Town Community Preservation Water Quality Advisory Committee. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Trustee Corus, second. Seconded by Trustee Plum. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Resolution authorizing notice to proposers RFP for Sag Harbor Fire Museum stewardship and restoration. There was a lot of work that went into this RFP by council and Matt Jetica, I believe is his last name, over at LKMA helped us out with this. And this is an RFP moving forward to restore the fire museum, which we have to put it out there for RFP. So do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Motion by Deputy Mayor Hay, second.
Second.
Seconded by Trustee Plum. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Resolution authorizing notice to proposers RFP for the professional services for the replacement of a dock and the addition of new floating dock.
So moved.
Motion by Trustee Kane, second.
And the one thing I just want to note here is that there will be 2 phases of this. That the first phase will include the replacement of ADOC, the bulkhead, and the new boardwalk. The second phase will be the new floating dock where we will remove the cables, mooring cables. And the reason we are doing that is because the potential lengthiness of getting approval from the DEC on the permits. So this is the part that we can have control over and strategize this way. If by some miracle we get them both through before November 1st start, that would be fantastic, but we have to be realistic and prepare because the most important is replacing a dock for the safety reasons of the new dock there.
Okay, so we have a motion by Trustee Kane, seconded by Trustee Corish. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Resolution authorizing notice to proposers RFP for the new professional services for the construction of a new boardwalk and railing connecting Windmill Beach and John Steinbeck Waterfront Park. So this is also something we worked on with council to get this RFP so we can get this project moving. I need a motion. Motion by Trustee Plum, second.
Second.
Seconded by Deputy Mayor Hay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Resolution authorizing notice to proposers, request for proposals for Havens Beach Stormwater Watershed delineation and conveyance analysis.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by trustee Corus, second.
Second.
Seconded by trustee Plum. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Resolution authorizing the mayor to sign a proposal, D&B Engineers and Architects, for the annual stormwater management program services and the MS4 permit compliance, which is stormwater drainage. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by trustee Corus, second.
Second.
Seconded by deputy mayor Hay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Resolution to sign mayor's monarch pledge. We did this last year and it just be a continuation, continue to try to protect the monarchs as well as other, the bees and pollinators.
I'll move it.
Motion by deputy mayor Hay, second.
Second.
Seconded by trustee Plum. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Chief Drake requests authorization for below officers to attend the listed training sessions. Police Officer Scott Frankenbank to attend 4-day technique of investigative interviewing and advanced interrogation techniques on May 13th through the 16th, 2025, held at Southampton Town Police Department in Hampton Bays. Police Officer Michael Arkinson to attend the American Heart Association CPR instructor course March 18th, 25th, and 2025, held at East Hampton Town Police Department in Wayne-Scott, New York.
I'll
Need a motion by trustee Corus. Have a second?
Second.
Seconded by deputy mayor Hay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. This is we have the liquor license application. This is for 22 Long Island Avenue. Also requesting a 30-day waiver.
What's the waiver aspect? Just for my information. What does it mean?
I think that they're supposed to wait a minimum of 30 days.
What's the?
Which one is 22?
22.
Gluckman, it's a, Cluckman's,
Burger place.
Yeah.
Burger
yeah,
place.
chicken burger.
Chicken burger, right?
Yeah.
I
Because
noticed,
this application would have gone to New York State and then.
Well, they're gonna have to go through the SLA to get the license. This is just us.
maybe it's the 30-day.
I believe the 30 days is a waiting, right? They can take it. It won't hold up their process, basically.
Right, I have no problem with it.
Yeah.
I just want to understand it.
Right. I understand, yeah.
You looking to open a bar?
I don't know. I don't think that'd be such a good idea.
It's supposed to be 30 days advance notice to a local municipality or community board.
So they're asking for
So they're
that.
asking for
so
that
that's
to
the
be
waiver.
waived, yeah, that's
Okay.
what you're asking to be waived.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, motion by trustee Corus,
Second.
seconded by deputy mayor Hay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Number 19 is to accept 2025 bank reconciliations and collateral reports. Do I have a motion?
Moved.
Motion by trustee Kane, second.
Second.
Seconded by trustee Corus. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Robert Bory, Harbor Master, requests permission to hire the following dock personnel for the 2025 boating season at the designated pay rate effective June 1st, 2025.
So moved.
Motion by trustee Kane, second.
Second.
Seconded by trustee Corus. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Carrie Garapi, Secretary of the Sag Harbor Volunteer Ambulance Corps, requests permission to hire Allison Morvelli, EMT paramedic, effective March 11th, 2025, at the hourly rate of $38 an hour. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by trustee Kane, second.
Second.
Seconded by deputy mayor Hay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. I didn't think anybody would be opposed. $38 an hour for a paramedic, the person that saves people's lives.
Absolutely.
Acceptance of the 2025 grievance recommendations by the town of Southampton assessors. You have a motion.
So moved.
Motion by trustee Corus, second.
Second.
Seconded by trustee Plum. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Authorization for Mayor Gardella to attend the NICOM annual meeting at the Sagamore in Bolton Landing, New York, from May 28th to May 30th, 2025.
So moved.
So moved.
Motion by trustee Corus, second by trustee Kane. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Chief Drake requests authorization to advertise for the position of part-time traffic control officer for the upcoming 2025 summer fall season. This is our TCOs that we're going to be advertising for. A motion by Deputy Mayor Hay, seconded by trustee Plum. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. That brings us to our action item, special event and special use permits. Kate Plum of the Sag Harbor Farmers Market Incorporated requests permission to have the annual farmers market on Saturday mornings, starting May 17, 2025 to October 25th, 2025, from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Also requesting to place signs at the following location: Main Street, Germain Avenue, Long Wharf, Bay Street, Route 114, and Madison Street from May 3rd, 2025 to May 17th, 2025. And once again, as I did last year, I just want to commend Kate for doing an excellent job with the farmers market. I think it's important, and it's one of the highlights of our village. Go to the farmers market on the weekend.
Signage, May 3rd to May 17th.
May 3rd to, say that again, Kate?
You put those farmers market today signs up and I take them out and you.
Yeah,
They're great.
That's part of it,
I
right?
think it's
Yes.
really good.
Thank you very much.
you're welcome. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Deputy Mayor Hay, second.
Second.
Seconded by trustee Kane. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Bill Evans of WLNG Radio requests authorization to have free concerts on Thursday nights at Marine Park between August 7th, 2025 and September 2nd, 2025 from 7 to 9 p.m. Also requesting permission to place signs on the grassy area of Long Wharf and beside Mashhashemewick Park from July 24th to August 7th.
So moved.
Motion by trustee Corish. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by deputy mayor Hay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Jim Stewart of Katie's Courage Incorporated requests permission to have a 5K run walk fundraiser on Saturday, April 26, 2025 from 6 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. Also requests permission to place a sign on the grassy area of Long Wharf, Route 114 and Mashhashemewick Park from April 12th, 2025 to April 26th, 2025. Lastly, requesting assistance from the police department and highway department.
I'll move it.
Motion by deputy mayor Hay, second.
Second.
Seconded by trustee Kane. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried.
And again, these have all been run by the.
Yes.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
They've been busy. It's good to see.
Cheryl Newbauer of Massapequa Park Bike Club requests permission to ride through the village for their annual tour of the Hamptons on Sunday, September 12th, 2025, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. The tour will start at the end of Southampton High School. Mrs. Newbauer also requests to place lawn signs at turning intersections of the route. As I believe this, they're just going through the village, right? It's
Yes.
not-
Just the 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. seems like.
They're slow. Some are gonna be fast, some are gonna be slow.
So that basically
But
the,
the 7 a.m. starts in Southampton and then they do the whole thing and then they're just gonna
They just
start to
drive.
come
so
in
it's gonna
here.
be, it's gonna be people now
Meandering
coming,
through.
meandering through the village.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, I was just worried that it was.
But they don't go down Main,
more
Street.
than that.
They don't go down Main Street.
Right.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by trustee Kane, second.
Second.
Seconded by deputy mayor Hay. All those in favor?
Aye.
One
Opposed?
thing I would say is good is
So carried.
so many of these, we're getting them way ahead of time, which is one of the things that we've been asking for. And you see,
Yes.
we applaud you, Kate, but then all of these events, when they're so organized, it just helps us prepare.
No, completely. That makes a big difference.
That gets us to the payment of bills. Motion to approve the payments presented in warrant 37 in the amount of $413,035.89. Warrant 38, the amount of $60,112.23. Warrant 41, in the amount of $408,702.31. Do I have a motion to pay the bills?
I'll make it.
Motion by trustee Corish. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by trustee Kane. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. That brings us now to public comments. 15-minute public session, input for comments and questions, 3 minutes per speaker.
Donna asked something about Washington Street. She texted, I don't know, she might be talking about.
Is it the sewer project?
For
I have no
Washington
idea.
Street?
No.
That's not guess.
Okay,
She can always contact me and ask me about it, yeah.
yeah.
Wasn't there something down here for 5 Washington?
Oh, that's Washington Avenue,
Washington Avenue.
not Washington Street, which is in the
Right,
Very different.
commercial district.
very different.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
An awful lot, we don't see.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion by trustee Corr, second.
Second.
Seconded by trustee Kane. All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned.
Good job.
Thank you.